So we're going to move on to Councilmember Peralez's updates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dee, and thank you for stepping in as the chair. Hopefully somebody can step up as the vice chair to help out the group. But I wanted to touch on one thing that was pretty exciting. Did anybody get to see the study session that we had at council yesterday? Yesterday, yes. No. So I'll tell you a little bit about it because it's actually really interesting and it helps with everything that we've been talking about today and for years. So the study session that we had was on smart cities. And this is actually one of the things that I'm proudest of our mayor at this moment. It's really exciting that he's been pushing this direction. So in his office, when he started last year, he created a new position that no mayor in the city of San Jose or no department in the city of San Jose had ever had. And that was in strategic partnerships. And part of that office and what it brought about was another new position that he has in his office that's also never existed, and that is on innovation. It's a innovation officer, essentially is what it's called now. A few cities in the United States actually have these positions. San Francisco has one, New York, Boston, some of the major cities, and they've all had them for just a few years though. It's a fairly new concept for mayors or at the city manager level to have these positions. And what it is it's really catching up with the times. It's the use of technology and how do we be and act as a smart city? How do we utilize all this fast-growing technology around us to do some really cool things? So I'll give you a couple examples of what we talked about, but the potential for what we're going to be able to do here over the next several years, if we can actually direct some of our city budget and funding towards these ideas, is really quite amazing. One of the interesting things, and a very simple concept that was easy for all of us in the council to understand, and as you know, sometimes things have to be dummied down for us. So it was sensors. Now sensors in almost anything to make it more efficient, but the one that I thought was really neat was trash cans. And it was sensors that they put in trash cans. It was a smaller city back east. I'm blanking on the city that did it, but the city's so small that it only had 4 dump trucks, or five dump trucks that actually went around the city to pick up trash. But what they did is they put sensors in their trash cans to tell the drivers of the dump trucks when the trash can was full. So they could drive up to a block and know that that entire block, the trash cans were a quarter full. And they could just pass right by that. So the city was able to cut down from the 5 dump trucks to 2 because of the efficiency of not having to drive up to every trash can and load it in and go, oh, look, there's 2 pieces of trash, but it doesn't matter. It's on the route, and I got to drive by and pick up every single one. Thank you very much for coming. So, yes. And a simple concept, right? But it saves a lot of money, saves a lot of time, and it's the use of smart technology. Now, we were talking about this last year, and we're already right now rolling out with, or trying to roll out our new CRM management. It's basically a constituent response management system, I believe is what it's standing for, CRM. It's essentially taking in constituent concerns and then being able to vet them out much more easily by having a more fluid system. It's essentially what we use for our graffiti cleanup and what we've talked about over the years now and how successful, right, the graffiti app cleanup is, where you no longer have to worry about calling in a number or emailing your council office. You can simply go up to a location, take a picture, and it geotags it, and it sends it to who exactly needs to clean it up. And once they clean it up, they send you a message. Right? It's extremely efficient. We are trying to roll that out we're having a citywide CRM program that's going to be all the council offices, all the city departments have one universal one. So we're actually right now vetting out different, we put out an RFP and we got different submissions in, and we're trying to decide on who it is. The council doesn't do that, the staff is doing that right now. But one of the things we want to immediately add in is on illegal dumping, because we heard that, right? We know that that's one of the ways that we want to try to be more efficient. And right now, how does it work? It works where you call up a line, you leave a message, or you report it online, you get a hold of your council office. It's a very time-consuming, redundant task. You may have reported it once, and 20 other people may have reported it, right? And it's that kind of stuff is what takes a lot of time. And so those are just 2 smaller examples, but when we were hearing about, right now, about the waterway, Coyote Creek, different trails that we have, one of the most confusing things is, and this takes your guys' time, it takes our time, it could be as simple as, hey, we have this debris or a tree down. And you think, hey, let me get a hold of the city, if you want to start there. Or maybe you think, let me get a hold of the water district, right? But you start somewhere and say, hey, we have this tree down. And it's so complicated to find out things like who is responsible for that tree, right? It's even complicated for us, right? Because we don't have the data. And one of the major things that this smart city initiative is about is open data. And it's open for us, in my council office, we have no way to access the data to be able to, when you call, to say who owns this piece of property. So who is really responsible for it? My staff has to call up the planning department and say, hey, we have this tree down, and well, where's it at? Well, I don't really know. They gave me the address, but I don't know if it's to the north or to the south. Well, Barry Swenson's owns this property, and the water district owns this property, and the city owns the one across the street. And then we got to go back and find out, hey, can you let me know exactly where that is? And then we go back to the staff. Okay, yeah, then that was Barry Swenson. Okay, well, now we're on a whole new path, and now we go and find out the property. But God forbid, actually, Barry Swenson would be easier because at least they're local. Most of the time, it's somebody that's not local, right? And so it's even harder. Open data would solve that whole problem. It would allow not only my staff, you wouldn't even have to go there. It would allow you, as a resident, to go online and find things out, like who owns this property, right? Who's responsible? Is it the city, the water district, a private property owner? And certainly for my office as well. And that was, again, that's just one example of where, how do we, and this data is all there. I mean, that data exists. It's just right now it's existing in silos to where I can't even access it. We have to go and ask around permission, and so do you. So it was really exciting. I had heard one other presentation last year on open data it was a forum that was here, blanking on the name of the convention that was here, but I sat in one of the smart city presentations. And they talked about these smart city initiatives, they talked about open data. That was my first intro to it. And for most of the council members, yesterday was our first intro to it, or was their first intro to it. And so that's really thanks to the mayor for driving this and saying, hey, this is how we're gonna be more efficient, more effective moving forward. And it's gonna, and it could change all of these things that we're talking about, where it makes, again, you guys and us more efficient.
You know what would be really cool is, to add to this is if the city and the county could come up with something called open agreement, where if there's graffiti on somebody's property and the city doesn't have permission to paint over that property, so let's say it's Union Pacific, for example. In my neighborhood, for example, wouldn't it be cool if there was an open agreement? And yeah, you take the picture, you've got the data, and then you have this agreement where yeah, we can go ahead and just get rid of that graffiti or remove that tree or get the pile of trash or whatever it is.
Yes, and that's like the next step, right? First step is, how do we make it easier to figure out whose responsibility it is? And then the second is, well, beyond the responsibility boundaries, how do we work better together? Because it's all tax dollars, right? Well, unless it's Union Pacific, right? There's private entities out there as well, right, that we're having to deal with. But when we're talking about the public entities, we do get into these battles. I'll give you one example, and it's been painful, and it's on the entry and exit ways to freeways, or on and off ramps, and then the actual between the sound walls and the freeway itself. So there is a certain distance that's, I still can't get the foot, semi-arbitrary, but there's a certain distance from the actual edge of the freeway, and take 87 because it's the example I'm thinking of right now, all the way to the sound wall, right? And there's a portion of that from the sound wall that could be city property, and a lot of times is, and then somewhere imaginary line in the middle, it becomes Caltrans property. And right now, and a lot of times, as you guys know, we get a lot of homeless, right, that live in these areas. Well, there's a lot of finger pointing that goes on. No, that one is Caltrans property because it's, it's a little closer to the freeway, and that's, No, that's actually city property. Well, or you know what? That one's both. And then, so Caltrans will take complaints right now, right? Whether it's from you calling in, or if we get a complaint in and we try to figure it out, we'll go to both our housing department and we'll go to both Caltrans and try to figure it out. They may take one and, oh yeah, okay, fine, this is our responsibility. And it goes onto their log of when they're gonna respond to it. Well, and this has happened. And the city may do the same, right? They'll take their responsibilities and go on. Well, there may be an encampment that is out, and this has happened in the past, where it's on both. Caltrans may come out to clean up an encampment and go, well, all that stuff's the city of San Jose, so we're gonna go ahead and clean up these 4 tents and leave those 6. And meanwhile, those individuals that were out there going, so I can just go over there? Right?
Bingo.
And so, and they weren't, and they're not coordinated, right? And so, it's actually been really difficult to coordinate amongst the different public agencies. Fortunately, Ray Bramson has now been in his role for a number of years, and he is doing a good job at trying to fix that problem. So Ray Bramson's position didn't exist a few years ago, and he's working through these issues. And one of the things that, thank God, that has been happening is this partnership with Caltrans. Whereas opposed to, and they meet monthly now, both of the encampment response teams from the city and Caltrans meet monthly. Ours is much more active than Caltrans is, but they meet monthly, and they will cross-check and, hey, we're getting this complaint about this area, and it looks like it's one of the shared zones. Are you getting, yeah, we're getting some complaints too. Well, why don't we strategize and make a time that we're gonna go out there together, right? And we can address this certain concern together. And that, so there's, you know, it's just a few examples, but a big portion of why this takes so long, and we joke all the time, right, how slow government works. A lot of it is because of these unknowns. We spend a lot of time calling and emailing and going back and forth and fact checking and responsibility checking because we don't, number one, we don't know that data. And so where that first hurdle we can cover is with this Smart Cities open data. The second hurdle is what you mentioned, that's a lot harder, which is how do we work better together once we know. But I personally think it'll be a lot easier to work better together when we're not allowed to finger point, we're not allowed to kind of say, hey, I'll get back to you on it. 3 weeks later you get an email or something. So it's pretty exciting to hear. This is not going to happen overnight again, but this is something now that is happening. And if there's something that you want to thank the mayor for, it's really taking the initiative on that and pushing that agenda.
Yeah, would this be something like an enhanced San Jose Clean app or something?
Ultimately, yes.
Is that
Yeah,
what it'd be like
yeah.
that?
And that again won't come out overnight, but yes, ultimately, that's our hope for not just the encampment, or not just the illegal dumping, right? And graffiti, but it could be for other things like encampments, broken street lights, stop signs, whatever. It could be for reporting any of those things through one smart mobile system.
Okay.
So,
Any timeline? I mean, I know vaguely, is it this year and next year, 5
so
years?
step one right now this year, what we're working on is the CRM system, and that is step one. And the reason is because there's already certain departments use these systems, but they're disjointed because like a couple council offices have different ones, and so what they're doing is they're saying, look, let's have everybody be universal, so then that way I can look into data in Department of Transportation and sort of we can cross-reference these things. So that's step number one, is really we're working inside out because we need to work better here at the city. But ultimately, yeah, the goals are within the next few years you'll be able to see incremental steps. So hopefully at the end of this year, after the CRM, VJ from our IT department has said, and we've put the priority there, that the first thing we'd like to see is the illegal dumping option within the app to be able to report that. So.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.